One of the things that I think that our global community of Christians give us also is a real sense of what it means to do theology within context, or read scripture within context. It was a late John Mackay in his I got it right here in his preface to Christian theology, really old book here, but he talks about two ways of doing theology. One being from the balcony, and he's thinking about those kind of short, small balconies in a Spanish home, and it's that point where you're trying to watch everything as the detached, objective observer. And then he said, there's another way to do theology, and that's from the road. And I think his expression here is just incredible. As he talks about doing theology from the road, and the road where that place where life is lived tensely, where decisions are made, and it's in that stuff of life. And this is, you're pastor, you understand this. People have realities that they have to face that are very real, and they're wondering what the gospel has to do with them. And then you tell them it does have to do with you. And let me show you how. Well, you've just done theology, and you've done contextual theology at that point, and bringing to bear, and again, our divisions in the American society today. How in the world that's going to be healed? Well, I think the answer is in places like the Gospel of John, love your neighbor as yourself, what Jesus taught us, and also in the book of Romans about how communities come together, Jew and Gentile, and divisions. So our brothers and sisters have brought us fresh visions of the faith, and what kind of arrogance is it on our part to not listen to them?
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, and what I want to get past is, and I say this as somebody trained in very strong evangelical communities, one of our reflexes that we always want to examine it and judge it and dissect it and smell it, make sure, taste it, see if it's right by us. So we put ourselves up on the pinnacle as if we were the arbitrators of all truth. And maybe we're not that. And maybe we need a little bit more humility and saying that, I got something to learn from a Cuban American, Justo Gonzalez, or I got something to learn from Johanna Catenaccio. Have you ever heard that name?
I haven't.
Okay, Johanna Catenaccio, get this. He's a Palestinian Christian. He was raised at the Seventh Station of the Cross in Jerusalem. He was an atheist, hated the Jewish populace as a Palestinian. Christ got a hold of him and changed this man into somebody who walked and lived with the love of Christ. Johanna Catenaccio, now Dr. Catenaccio, made his way to Trinity International University and knocked out his PhD in Old Testament under Willem van Gemeren there. So Palestinian Christian doing Old Testament biblical studies. Okay.
That's phenomenal.
Okay. Now
just that alone.
Then Dr. Catenaccio writes on a theology of land from a Palestinian Christian perspective, rooted deeply in Scripture. And I remember the first article that he came out of on this, and it was entitled, Christ is the owner of Haaretz. Christ is the owner of the land. And he's written, I can see it across the room, a book called The Land of Christ. Well, I watched with my students at Wheaton College as Dr. Catenaccio would come in and speak to them. I watched a sea change in their understanding of land, understanding of the land of Israel. And let me tell you, there was a challenge to a lot of North Atlantic evangelical theology regarding land. Now, you want to go back and forth with Johanna, or he teaches at Bethlehem Bible College, along with Munther Isaac. Both of them worked on theologies of land. Well, what does it mean then to listen to them or Mitri Rahab about theology of land? Land as a theological category that we, don't think about, but they do. And it's something that indigenous Christians think a lot about. South African Christians think about. I mentioned to you before we started recording here about a book that KKO and I have edited on theologies of land, published by Cascade. To hear parts of the biblical story within our contemporary context is brought to us by majority world Christians. We go, why didn't I think about that? Why don't I have a theology of land? Why do I look at this just property and not understand that here where I'm living in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, that I need a theology of land as well? And it's absent. It was never taught to me. But it takes a Palestinian and a South African and a Honduran and a Cherokee to teach me about land.